afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another video in the Woodsman Ways series. What I wanted to discuss in this one is what I believe are Woodsman staple skills. Now, before I talk about what they are, I want to talk about a couple other things that are well talked about in the community as far as survival goes, bushcraft, stuff like that, and kind of prep a little bit before we talk about what those staple skills are. So stay with me. So a couple things that I think we need to talk about prior to the staple skills is the 6 survival priorities and also the rule of threes. So firstly, the 6 survival priorities are always the same. They never change. The only thing that changes about them is the importance in which they become to you depending on your situation. I think a lot of people kind of miss that concept when they talk about this and when they think about it. So let's run through the 6 priorities, fill you in a little bit on what they are, and kind of how I think about them. Survival priorities real quick, and then I'll tell you kind of how I think about that and why. So in no order of importance here from the beginning, let's just run through them. We have shelter, fire, water, food, first aid and or hygiene, and then signaling and navigation. Now the last 2, there's 2 to each part there. So first aid and hygiene go hand in hand, as does signaling and navigation. So how I think about this really, and again, people tend to put them in order of importance just like I listed them there, and rightfully so, but again, the situation is going to dictate which one of those is most important at that time. So some people will argue that shelter is your biggest survival priority, and this will tie into the rule of threes when we get to that here in a bit, so that you can get out of the elements, protect yourself from the elements. Now that's the number one way that people perish, if you will, when caught in some type of survival situation. Exposure to the elements is the number one. After that is fire, and again, people kind of back and forth with that. You can interchange those, which one's first, which one's second, pretty easily. Fire obviously is huge. It does so many things for you. It's, in my mind, one of the most important skills that you can have. After that is water. Obviously that's a no-brainer. You need to hydrate, whether it's hot or cold, no matter what the environment or weather is, you need to keep hydrated. Pretty common sense stuff there. Food is a bit underrated in my opinion, and I only see certain people kind of talk about that with a higher importance level, than a lot of others do. I know Dave at the Pathfinder School, food's a big one to him, as well as it is to me, as far as teaching it goes, and stressing how to be able to procure food, because that helps with everything as well, from controlling your body's core temperature, which is the number one thing that you're trying to do in a survival situation. And it just plays out, it's that important to you. After that, you have first aid and hygiene. So there again, if you go back to the top of the list there with shelter and fire, that's probably the 2 most important things. You're stuck out, in a situation, whatever it may be. You can think up the scenario yourself, but you get injured out there, you break a leg, twist an ankle pretty bad where you're immobile. First aid becomes your immediate priority over shelter and fire at that point. So you can kind of see how the situation dictates, again, which one of these priorities is the most important at the time. After that, again, like I said, you have signaling and navigation, And that's basically if you're going to stand fast and they either signal for rescue because you left a plan in place and people know that you're missing and they're going to be out looking for you, or you need to know how to navigate so you can self-rescue. So let's go ahead and talk about the rule of threes here real quick. So the infamous rule of threes, and when I first heard it, it's kind of one of those buzz terms or buzz terminology, just like the word survival is and stuff like that. The first one I ever remember hearing it from was Ron Hood, well-known, outstanding influence in the survival and bushcraft community. God bless him. And I think it kind of carried on from him, and people started, kind of taking that as their own and regurgitating that information. So let's run down what the rule of threes are here. So the way the rule of threes works is you have 3 minutes without air before you either suffer from total brain damage or some form of or severity of brain damage to death, of course. You can go 3 hours exposed to the elements, whether it's extreme heat or extreme cold. You can go 3 days without water. You can go 3 weeks without food. And that's kind of how that runs down. And again, I still see people kind of using that rule of threes, and catches some attention from people, and whatever. But I think it's all common sense stuff, and the rule of threes applies to extreme cases. I mean, there's been people that have been caught in natural disasters that have survived well over 3 weeks without food or water. So what's right there? So to me, it's kind of a novelty in itself, that whole little thing there. The very first one, 3 minutes without air, that's again common sense stuff to me, and we all breathe, and we don't even have to think about that. So why that has a place in the rule of threes is beyond me, but I didn't make it up, so it is what it is. And please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not trying to knock anybody or say I'm better than anybody else. That's not what I'm getting at here. But I kind of wanted to touch on both of these to show you kind of how it ties in to the Woodsman staple skills, or what I believe are staple skills as far as any woodsman goes. So I think the survival priorities there and the rule of threes kind of tie into that. So let's talk about those staple skills right now. Alright, so as I said, 6 survival priorities. They never change. Never, ever, ever do they change. What changes about them, again, is the importance in which you need them. And situation will always, always, always dictate that for you. So the way I listed them there, or the way I told them to you, in order of importance, if you will, if that's what you want to call it, let's talk about number 4, food. Again, I don't see too many people, really harp on the food aspect, because they kind of lean towards that rule of threes, and you can go 3 weeks without food. So in a short-term to medium-term survival situation, food's not really high up on the priority list as far as most people are concerned. I tend to disagree with that, simply because you need to eat, and I don't care who it is. I haven't seen too many people that can go even a day without eating food. So compound that with being stuck in some type of situation, the adrenaline's going, maybe a little fear factor involved, not used to the situation that you're in, psychological aspects definitely take a toll there. So food becomes very critical to you, even at an early stage, within that 3-day survival scenario even. So what I believe are Woodsman staple skills are ways to help you procure food. So those been around forever. It's beginning of time, really. You need to be able to hunt, you need to be able to fish, and you need to be able to trap. And that's both modern techniques and tools as well as primitive, because you know, in a perfect world, you get caught in a situation, you're gonna have your survival kit. But you know, as soon as Murphy comes along and you don't have it, you need to have those primitive skills so you can still accomplish that task. So to me, the woodsman staple skills are skills being able to hunt, fish, and trap. A lot of different techniques, a lot of different styles and variations on way you can do things, obviously. So in the future, in future videos, I'm going to go over all that type of stuff with you guys. I mentioned in a past video I had some new series coming out. That's part of one. And also that I was revamping the website, if you will. And I had come up with some new courses. So just a little tidbit here. That's all going to be part of it. Primitive hunting, primitive fishing, primitive trapping is all going to be part of those courses. And again, I think they're very important. So as soon as you find yourself in a situation, if you had left a plan in place and you admit to yourself, hey, I'm lost and I should probably stay put where I'm at so I don't get more lost, and somebody should be out looking for me at some point, which is the point you left in your plan, that if I don't call by or if I'm not home by. So you decided to stay put. You have your kit with you or you don't have your kit with you. You need to already start thinking about, how am I going to get something to eat? And it's going to be by hunting, fishing, or trapping, obviously. But that needs to be just as important to you as shelter and fire are. So right off the bat, you should be thinking of how you're going to do that. How am I going to get myself food and implement that plan of action almost immediately. Now you can wait and think that it's going to be a 3-day scenario, and you know, I can go 3 days without the water, back to the rule of threes there, or I can go 3 weeks without the food. But if that plan doesn't work out and you don't become found in that period of time, you're worse off than when you started and you haven't even started looking for food yet, haven't even thought of how you're going to get it. So that's why I believe they're staple skills and they need to be implemented almost immediately. Again, situation's going to dictate that for us, but I just think it's that important. Again, back to the rule of threes in the extremity. But what starts to happen is, I'm sure you can all attest to this, you get hungry, you've been hungry for a little while, you start getting testy, little attitude may be coming on, and that's your body's reaction telling you that, hey, I need something to eat, I need it now. So before waiting that 3 days or however long it's going to take to realize, hey, maybe I'm not going to be found, you need to start that ASAP and plan on a way to get yourself something to eat. And the longer you go, the hungrier you get, the worse off the whole situation becomes. Then you start making bad decisions, you know, safety decisions, plan decisions, start going against what plan you left in place because you're not able to think properly. You know, it's Woodsman ways and Woodsman staple skills. I wanted to put that one out there for you guys. I've been wanting to get another video in this series for a while. I think this one is just as important as the rest of them are. Hopefully I've opened up some eyes, make people think a little bit different than maybe what has been put out in the past. Again, in no way am I trying to knock anybody else's theories or practices or anything like that. This whole series on the Woodsman ways is how I think about things and why I do some of the things I do. So thanks for joining me for another one, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll get back out, shoot another video for you just as soon as I can. So until the next time, take care.